Send a $500 suit to the dry cleaner 3 times. The chest starts to bubble, the lapel loses its roll, and the fabric separates from the lining with no repair possible. That is fused construction, and it is inside more suits sold in this country than most buyers realize. 8 brands currently selling suits in Australia are using that method. 3 are doing it properly. The price tags across all 11 overlap in ways that make the difference invisible at the rack. By the end of this, that gap will be impossible to miss. Before the list, one concept determines everything. Every suit jacket has an interlining, an invisible layer sitting between the outer fabric and the inner lining. How that hidden element is attached is the single most important fact about any garment you buy in a formal wear store. Fused construction bonds the interlining to the outer fabric using thermoplastic adhesive. It is the cheapest production method available. Heat, sweat, and dry cleaning chemicals degrade the bond over time. The inner structure separates. The chest bubbles. The jacket loses shape permanently and there is no fix. Half canvas places a stitched layer through the chest and lapels, securing it in place rather than gluing it. Below that point, the jacket remains fused. Structure sits where it matters most. This floating element molds to the wearer's body over time and can be repaired by a skilled tailor if needed. Full canvas runs horsehair or linen through the entire length of the jacket front, stitched, breathable, draping naturally and improving with every year of regular wear. Fused, half-canvassed, fully structured. Every brand on this list was measured against one question: which one did they choose? If this kind of breakdown is useful, joining the channel is how you help keep it going. Number 11. Conner. The term has become part of Australian vernacular. A Conner suit is what gets purchased the night before a court appearance, a last-minute job interview, or a school formal with 3 days of preparation time. The brand operates over 200 stores across the country, prices sitting between $200 and $400, and a construction method that explains exactly how that reputation formed. Every Conner suit is fused. The interlining is glued to the shell fabric from collar to hem, with no canvas structure anywhere inside. Consumer reports across Australian retail forums describe a consistent pattern: lapels losing shape after minimal wear, linings peeling away from outer panels, stitching loosening at the seams within weeks of regular use. Fabric compositions lean heavily on polyester blends. At $250, the garment delivers exactly what the production expense supports. The problem sits with the framing. Conner markets itself as formal wear, as the destination a man visits for moments that matter. The build is suited for a single occasion. Once the adhesive begins releasing, the jacket is finished and no tailor can reverse that process. A suit costing $250 that survives 3 wears represents a worse long-term investment than a $300 garment built to last a decade. Most buyers only learn this distinction after their first dry clean returns. A jacket with a bubbling chest they have no way to fix. H&M is where this gets worse, because the price barely shifts, but the framing changes completely. Number 10. H&M. Walk into any H&M location in Australia, and the suit section presents itself as an entry point to professional dressing. 2-piece suits retail at around $200. The cuts photograph well. The lapels sit flat and clean on the hanger. What the display fails to reveal is the internal structure of the jacket. H&M suits are 100% fused. Polyester blends are standard across every line. The interlining is glued from collar to hem with no canvas anywhere in the structure. The estimated production cost at this price point runs between $15 and $25. The remaining $175 covers logistics, retail floor rent, and brand overhead. Consumer feedback across Australian fashion forums describes a consistent pattern. Trousers splitting at the inner thigh after 6 or 7 wears, linings detaching from the jacket body, pockets separating from panel stitching within a season. One description that surfaces repeatedly across multiple review platforms calls the fabric texture similar to stiff paper. That is, the fused interlining creating rigidity where drape should sit. At this price, expectation should be calibrated clearly. A $200 H&M suit is a single event garment. It will survive a wedding, a graduation, or a funeral. After that, the adhesive begins its work. At $200, This is priced honestly for what it delivers. Every brand above this point on the list charges more for the same or similar construction method. Drop a like if this is landing. Number 4 is the entry that will surprise most Australians buying local. Number 9. Tarocash. The tag on a Tarocash suit reads $499. Walk into any of their 150-plus locations across Australia and it sits on sale for $249. Return 3 months later and the same jacket carries the same discount. The cut never concludes because the cut is the actual outlay. The original tag is a retail fiction the stores themselves have abandoned believing. The construction is fused throughout. Shell fabrics frequently run at 50% wool with thermainder in synthetic blends. Consumer reviews on productreview.com.au describe stitching deteriorating after a single 2-hour wear. One verified account records purchasing a suit, wearing it to an occasion for 2 hours, and observing visible fraying and seam separation before the evening concluded. The brand has operated over 150 locations in Australia for decades. That familiarity carries weight with buyers who associate longevity with quality. The two facts are entirely separate in this case. A label can occupy the same retail position for 40 years while continuing to produce fused garments at inflated sticker prices with permanent markdown cycles as the delivery mechanism. The discount structure is deliberate and precise. A $499 tag marked to $249 generates a value perception that a $249 suit displayed at its true cost would never produce. The garment is a $249 fused construction. The original tag is packaging. Both facts are sitting on the label, and most buyers in this country read neither one. Zara runs the same mechanism globally, and the Australian experience is consistent with every other market. Number 8. Zara. The modern cut on a Zara suit draws attention from across the retail floor. The slim lapels, the structured shoulder, the fabric with enough sheen to read as professional at a distance. Pull gently at any seam while it hangs on the rack. Style forum members across multiple platforms have documented exactly what follows. Visible separation, a gap appearing between panels, stitching that yields under minimal lateral pressure. Zara suits across the local market retail from around $250 to $400. The construction is fused across every line. A brief experiment involving a capsule with claimed canvas elements appeared inconsistently across certain international markets. It disappeared quietly. The standard product available in Australian stores is glued throughout. The deeper problem with Zara as a suiting option is the design philosophy. The brand produces garments to follow a trend cycle, with silhouettes shifting significantly between seasons. A slim peak lapel from one season reads as dated by the following year. Because fused construction degrades with repeated alterations, the jacket is ineligible for the kind of adjustment needed to stay relevant. A garment that yields under gentle pressure and is designed to be obsolete within 12 months occupies a different value position than its price implies. This is where foreign brands step aside and the Australian story starts. Number 7. Politix. For over 4 decades, this label has been one of the fixtures of Australian menswear. Shopping centres across every major city carry Politix. The brand presents itself as a step above fast fashion, a destination for the local professional who wants something sharper than a basic off-the-rack option at department store pricing. Suits range from around $400 to $700 across the catalogue. The interlining is glued. At $500, Australian buyers are in territory where half canvas is available from multiple competitors at similar or lower cost. Politix occupies that price band with adhesive bonding and the positioning of a quality retailer. The gap between those two facts is where the value proposition breaks down for regular wearers. The catalogue spans genuine wool to synthetic blends, with the former deserving acknowledgement for the material choice. Bonding superior fleece to a glued interlining still produces a garment that will bubble, delaminate, and fail to mold to the wearer over time. The fiber is one dimension of performance. The method of attachment determines lifespan. Number 6. YD. Walk through the formal wear floor of any Myer department store in Australia and YD occupies the accessible end of the suit display. Positioned as the entry point for younger buyers and those purchasing a first professional garment, The brand retails two-piece suits from around $250 to $400. The cuts are contemporary. The marketing targets the buyer who wants to look sharp without committing to a premium outlay. The build is fused throughout. Fabric compositions sit heavily in the polyester-wool blended territory, with higher synthetic content at the budget end. At $250, this is consistent with what the production expense supports. At $350 to $400, the buyer is paying department store retail margin for the same adhesive bonded tier as the cheaper options. Meyer runs promotional events throughout the year, including the well-documented Super Saturday sale that moves YD suits at 30 to 40% discounts. At those reduced prices, the garment is priced honestly relative to what it delivers. At full retail, the buyer is paying for the convenience of a department store location and a contemporary pattern, while the adhesive bonding cost stays constant regardless of the sticker. The brand fills a genuine purpose for buyers who use suits infrequently and want an accessible price for occasional formal events. What it fails to serve is the professional expecting to put the jacket on twice a week for 2 years and have it maintain shape, drape naturally over time, or survive the dry cleaning load that regular office attendance requires. Number 5 is where the price jumps significantly and the construction stays exactly the same. Number 5. Hugo Boss. The advertising budget for Hugo Boss runs at approximately $330 million annually. That figure spreads across billboards, airport terminals, retail fit-outs, and celebrity partnerships in markets including Australia. Apply that number to what it buys inside a jacket, and the mathematics of the purchase become difficult to defend at any price point in the mainline range. Hugo Boss mainline suits retail in Australia from around $700 to $1,200. The build across the primary range is fused. Thermoplastic adhesive holds the interlining against the outer fabric at a bracket where Suit Supply offers half canvas with Italian wool, and Australian labels have historically offered stitch chest construction with domestic merino at comparable cost. The price tags overlap. The internal methods are entirely opposed. Production cost for a Hugo Boss mainline suit sits in the $40 to $70 range. At $900 on the shelf, the gap between that figure and the sticker is composed almost entirely of brand overhead. The advertising investment, retail fit-out, wholesale distribution chain, and the premium attached to a German fashion house logo. The fabric quality is reasonable. The bonding method behind it is identical to what Connor deploys at a quarter of the outlay. At $800 for a Hugo Boss suit and $639 for a Suit Supply perennial with half canvas and Vitale Barberis Canonico wool, the buyer is within $200 of the superior option. That gap is the difference between glued interlining with a global advertising department and stitched inner structure with an Italian mill fabric provenance listed on the page. Number 4 is the most complicated entry on this list, and the one most Australians buying local will need to examine closely. Number 4. MJ Bale. At its strongest, this brand represented something genuinely compelling in the local suit market. Half-canvas construction with Australian merino wool, retail pricing from around $600 to $1,200, a domestic label with a clear value position against imported alternatives at the same price point. That version earned its reputation among Australian menswear buyers across the previous decade. The reviews accumulating across productreview.com.au between 2023 and 2025 carry a different message. Multiple verified purchasers describe trousers developing visible fabric wear and pilling after 3 months of regular use. One account records paying approximately $1,000 for a jacket and 2 pairs of trousers and finding fabric deterioration around the thigh area after a single day of wear. Another describes collar tips on shirts wearing through within 10 uses despite professional dry cleaning. The half-canvas claim across the MJ Bale core range is genuine. The distinction between the brand's placement here and the 3 at the top of the countdown is the reported gap between that structural commitment and the finishing around it. A stitched garment built with lower-grade wool and inconsistent manufacturing fails to deliver the durability that proper internal architecture is supposed to produce. The interlining outlasts the material it is meant to support. At $600 to $800 for a suit, the Australian buyer sits one step from Suit Supply's entry canvas range which sources from Vitale Barberis Canonico and E. Thomas, labels every detail explicitly on the product page and offers in-store tailoring across Sydney and Melbourne. Brand familiarity keeps buyers with MJ Bale. At current quality levels, the garment asks more than it delivers relative to what is available at comparable or lower cost. Drop a comment with the brand you are currently buying from. Curious how many here air already at one of the 3 that follow? 8 brands. All glue. Now the 3 that chose to do it properly. Number 3. Oliver Wicks. Run the pinch test on a new Oliver Wicks jacket. Grip the chest between 2 fingers and pull gently outward. A third layer separates from the outer cloth and the inner lining, floating freely between them. That is the canvas. Stitched, alive, and present in every garment this maker produces as a baseline feature rather than a premium add-on. Oliver Wicks is an Australian direct-to-consumer label operating from Sydney. Stitched canvas is the baseline across the entire range, with full construction available at the upper price points. Made-to-measure suits start from around $700 to $900 with Italian mill fabrics, including options from Vitale Barberis Canonico and other established Biella region producers. The direct-to-consumer model eliminates the department store retail margin and the wholesale distribution layer entirely. Every dollar that exits the supply chain between the factory and the buyer flows into the garment and fabric sourcing. This is the structural reason an Oliver Wicks canvas jacket at $800 competes directly with a glued option from a premium local brand at the same price, while delivering measurably superior internal architecture. The sewn layer in an Oliver Wicks garment molds to the wearer over time. The lapel rolls naturally instead of pressing flat. The chest drapes in place of presenting as a single rigid panel. These are the physical consequences of stitched versus glued interlining, and they become more pronounced with every month of wear. The fused jacket deteriorates. The canvas equivalent improves. At this price point, the trajectory matters as much as the day one appearance on the hanger. Number 2 is where Australian buyers who know their construction options tend to land when they are ready to commit. Number 2. Joe Button. A consultation with Joe Button begins with fabric selection from an Italian mill range, proceeds through a detailed measurement process, and produces a canvas suit delivered to the buyer within 3 to 4 weeks. The sewn layer is standard. Full structure is available at a supplementary charge. Entry pricing sits around $800 to $900, Forbes spoke made to measure. Joe Button is Sydney-based, Australian-run, and built around the premise that made to measure should be accessible at the same price bracket where most people are currently purchasing inferior off-the-rack garments. The value comparison is the centerpiece of their positioning, and the internal structure backs it. Italian fabrics, stitched canvas, and measurements taken to the individual wearer rather than a standardized pattern shared across thousands of orders. For Australian shoppers in warmer climates, the Joe Button model carries an additional advantage. Made to measure allows fabric weight and weave selection for the specific conditions each buyer works in. A professional in Brisbane wearing a suit 5 days a week has different requirements to the same buyer based in Melbourne. The direct consultation process accommodates those variables in a way that off-the-rack sizing on a department store floor is unable to, regardless of the construction method used. Joe Button's positioning in Australian menswear sits where most local buyers compare it to MJ Bale or Politix in place of Oliver Wicks or Suit Supply. That comparison consistently favors Joe Button on internal build quality at the same price bracket. The made-to-measure process adds fitting precision that off-the-rack sizing can only approximate, and the stitched canvas ensures the garment improves with wear instead of degrading from the first dry clean. And this is where it ends, with the brand that makes the rest of the list difficult to justify. Number 1. Suit Supply. Every suit on the Suit Supply website carries a tag identifying its internal structure, half canvas or fully stitched. The information is on the product page in the description and verifiable before the buyer reaches the checkout. There is no ambiguity, no fine print, and no requirement to search the brand separately to understand what the jacket contains. Suit Supply operates stores in Sydney and Melbourne with in-store tailors available for alterations. The Perennial line, the brand's core Australian offering, starts at $639. Half canvas is standard. Cloth comes from Vitale Barberis Canonico, a Bieloregion Italian weaver supplying houses charging 3 to 5 times the suit supply retail price. The same supply chain, a different distribution model with fewer layers between the loom and the buyer. Full canvas suits begin at 929 Australian dollars and extend to 1,349 at the top of the standard range. At those figures, the buyer accesses E. Thomas wool and fully stitched internal structure for a price that Hugo Boss charges for glued interlining and a global advertising operation worth more per garment than the cloth beneath it. The mathematics run in one direction. The comparison that defines Suit Supply's position at the top of this list is direct. A Suit Supply perennial at $639 and a Hugo Boss mainline suit at $800 to $900 sit within $300 of each other in the Australian market. The Suit Supply option carries stitched canvas, Italian wool with mill provenance listed on the page, and in-store tailoring. The Hugo Boss equivalent comes with glued interlining and a marketing budget that costs more per garment than the cloth itself. At that gap, the decision is a single data point, and it runs clearly in one direction. 8 labels, all fused, all adhesive, all glue. 3 chose canvas. The price tags across all 11 overlap in ways designed to obscure the difference. The internal structure tells a different story to the label, and in suiting, that hidden layer is the only figure that matters once the jacket has survived its first year of regular wear. Share this with someone about to spend $500 on a fused garment. The decision takes 30 seconds to change once you know what to ask. If you own a canvas suit that has lasted longer than any fused option you have previously worn, put the brand in the comments.